The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question and I'll listen more attentively?
Or I won't.
There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see. And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me. I must have not been paying attention when you were busy slamming the door. I guess the things that pass for affection ain't the same as they were before. There must have been something in all of that nothing that dropped me like a stone to the floor.
Alrighty.
And I must have missed something.
See if Kendris is alive yet.
Just slamming
Little
the
weasel.
door. Oh, I don't mind just a little. It's driving me out of my mind. Oh, could you spare me the riddle and hand me a bottle or something that's hollow? I can climb inside. It's a lifetime movie of the week starring you.
Come on, Dave. You got to do the ba-ba-bas with us.
It's David.
It's David.
Old habits die
Oh,
hard.
man. This
I'll
is
correct
not
it
going to
for
go
you.
well. I can already tell this is not going to go well.
I got you back, David.
All right, honey. Oh, boy.
It's driving me out.
Such a character.
All right. Let's get this show on the road, I
All
guess.
right.
Shall we? Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here with the Paying Attention Podcast. Hiya, Top. Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Got a pretty interesting show for you today. You know, we got the ratings. Chrissy sent me the ratings last week, I think. I didn't open it right away. I opened it a couple days later.
Of course.
And you still had me back.
And I am shocked at the ratings are literally through the roof. Now the podcast sponsorships are not through the roof. So if you'd like to sponsor us, it's $50 a week. You get your thing in the front. We'll talk about you during the show. We'll mention you during the show, and then we always post stuff on Facebook for you.
Yeah.
So please get in touch with us if you want to do that. Want to thank our sponsors: McLennan Real Estate, Century 21, AFC Urgent Care, Marsan and Son Construction. I've had several people ask me on Facebook the last few days, hey, I really need a contractor, and I know Dave's not available these days because he's so booked. David is not available. So who should I call? And I said, well, you know, the guy you really should call is Ronnie Marsan. He's got Marsan and Son Construction. Borelli's Deli, where I'm going to get my tortellini salad now. I just live on tortellini salad.
That's it.
Now that I've tasted the Borelli's tortellini salad, I don't even want to eat anything else anymore. I get that. I get the butternut squash, and that's pretty much it. I'm good for like the
the
week.
ravioli, yeah.
The butternut squash ravioli. Then we've got Teddy Fairburn, who I haven't heard from Teddy in about a month or so. So we're hoping he's going to come back. He may not. You guys, when you're watching the show and you see the ads, please patronize the people who are sponsoring the show, because of all of our advertisers, there's always one that says, hey, I'm not getting any calls. The rest of them say they're getting calls, but there's always one that says they're not getting calls. And I think Teddy is probably one of the guys that's not getting any calls. So if you need a workers' comp attorney, if you got hurt at work, or if you got hurt during some kind of work-related activity, please call Teddy Fairburn. Tell him you saw his ad on the show. Tell him that you appreciate that. Also, Tomo and Happy Crab, which we will be on Saturday again, because we love Tomo and Happy Crab right down here on Broadway. Clear Path for Veterans New England, and of course, Pleasant Valley Landscaping, who advertises on the show, even though they don't need the business. The owner, I know the owner really well. His name is David. He doesn't like it when you call him Dave. So, so a couple of things before we get to my guest. He just pulled. So we got the ratings, and I was shocked at how the ratings are literally through the roof. Now, compared to like last year at this time, they're not as good because last year at this time, if you remember, we were all locked down.
Right.
Right? We were just starting to come out of the lockdown a little bit. So a lot of people were stuck at home. And so our I don't think we'll ever be able to beat COVID ratings. We had the best ratings in the world during COVID because we were the only all the other podcasts canceled during COVID. They stopped coming in.
Yep.
I came in every single week. We continued to do a show. I remember Neil Perry used to come in and say, "How come you're not wearing a mask? How come you're still doing your show? You're still publishing a newspaper during COVID? Aren't you worried?" No, I'm not worried. And so we had great ratings last year, but for the last 6 months, our ratings have been really high. Our highest rated show, I went back and I did some counting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from my math, and I went to Lawrence High, so you have to double check my math.
Okay.
But from my math, our highest rated show was the show we did on Steve Saber, wanting people to go hungry in Methuen.
I believe that might have been, yeah.
That was our highest rated show. Our second highest rated show, which should have been our highest rated show because she's so goddamn beautiful, is when Jana Zani Pesci from the Methuen School Committee was here. That show should have had like 20,000 people watching that show because she's like a supermodel. Like, I know you're not supposed to talk about women's looks today because it's supposed to be all bad. It's not bad at all to compliment someone on their looks, I don't think, anyway. And
I feel like it's all on how you'd go about doing it.
I guess. Well, so was that okay?
Her husband's like a muscular guy. Maybe he'll
I love Vinny. See,
pay you a visit.
I'm not sure who I'd want to marry more, her or Vinny. Vinny's the greatest guy in the world. Like, no, he's literally like the greatest guy in the world. There's literally nobody nicer. In my lifetime, I don't think I've ever met anybody as straightforward, as honest, and as nice as Vinny Pesci, her husband.
That's it. I'm leaving.
So the only reason why Jana and I haven't cheated yet, is because I love Vinny so much that I could just never do that to Vinny. I just couldn't.
That's the reason it hasn't happened.
I couldn't do it. And if it was anybody else, trust me, I could do it. I have no problem cheating at all. I have no morals whatsoever. But because of Vinny, I've not done that. Kendras Vasquez is the third highest rated show was David, who does not want to be called Dave. Yes, he was our third highest rated show.
He's going to needle me on that.
The acting mayor, who nobody wants to call acting mayor, they keep wanting to call him mayor for some reason to boost his ego, I guess to kiss his ass. Kendras Vasquez is having a live event right now, supposedly, where my insider friends in the mayor's office in Lawrence say that he's going to be talking about possibly shutting parts of the city down and going back to some kind of lockdown situation.
Oh.
Because of COVID. So next week when the paper comes out, I'm going to have a story. I started doing the research yesterday on how many people in Lawrence got COVID, how many people died of COVID, and how many of them were young, healthy people.
Right.
Because Lawrence has and I'm going to exaggerate just to make the point, but Lawrence has something like 50 nursing homes. It's probably like 9. I don't know what the actual number is, but there's a lot of nursing homes in Lawrence, more than anywhere else. So of course the Lawrence numbers are higher. But if you factor out people that are in institutions like nursing homes or assisted living, the numbers are very, very, very low in Lawrence. And yet Kendras and a lot of the elected leaders in Lawrence are still running around like Chicken Little, yelling that the sky is falling. And so we're gonna try and focus a little on that. And I might even talk about it next week. I'm trying to get through these as quick as I can so we can get to Dave Ed.
I correct him one time, and now you're going to carpet the whole show.
So in Methuen, now, I mean, we have the Incumbent Protection Act in Methuen. The way they do their elections is only to protect incumbents. So here's what they do. If you want to run for city council or mayor or school committee in November, you have to pull your papers by like July, right? July or maybe the beginning of August. Well, who in their right mind, what regular, average, normal person who has their own life to live is thinking about the November election in July? Nobody. They're all thinking about vacation, the kids, getting back to school, all that other stuff. So there's a deadline to pull papers. So if you don't pull nomination papers by that date in July or beginning of August, you can't run. Now, in other communities where they actually care about democracy, they don't cancel primaries. If there's 3 open spots and there's only one person running, they still have a primary. So that if you want to run on a sticker campaign or a write-in campaign, you can get your name on the November ballot. Methuen doesn't do that. In Methuen, let's say that you've got the 2 East District councilors in Methuen are Una Ziegler and Steve Saber, right? So normally, in order to have a primary, you'd have to have 5 people running because 4 would get nominated to go to the November ballot.
Right.
So if there's only 3 people running or 2 people running, they cancel the primary. And here's why that's bad, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to do this just real quickly again. Because if the average person looks at the landscape of who pulled papers and they don't like their choices, well, in other communities where they care about democracy, they could say, well, you know what? I'll run on a sticker campaign in a primary against Steve Saber or Una Ziegler. And if I get 50 votes, if I get 50 write-ins in the primary, my name goes on the November ballot and I'm equal to them. I'm on the ballot in November. But if you cancel the primary, then you've got to run on stickers in a final election against people whose names are already on the ballot, and you will never, ever win, right? It's just a numbers game. You can't do it. So here's what they do. There's a deadline to pull papers, then a deadline to turn papers in, and then if you don't have double the number of people that get elected, plus one, so that somebody gets eliminated in a primary, if you don't have an elimination for a primary, they cancel their primaries. And the only people this helps are the political insiders, because the political insiders are thinking about the next election the January before. Like, for example, there's going to be a November local election in Lawrence, Methuen, and Haverhill, right? Diana DiZoglio, who's a state senator who doesn't come up for re-election until next year, has already declared herself a candidate for state auditor for next year. So politicians are always thinking a year ahead. The average person's not thinking a year ahead on elections. The average person starts paying attention to elections like a month and a half before the election. So this only helps the insiders because the insiders all talk to each other. They all decide who's going to run. Okay, I won't run for this if you're going to run. I'll run for this other thing because I don't want to run against this guy. And they all conspire behind the scenes as to who's going to run for what, who's going to run for what position, which position might be open so that they'll pull papers for that. But nobody else knows that that position is going to be open because nobody else knows that that guy's not going to run for re-election. And all it does is it helps the political insiders keep power. During the debates last year, I asked every single city councilor candidate about this issue and said this needs to change. And almost every single one of them said, you're right, that needs to change. And yet here we are 2 years later, guess what? Didn't change. So this year, you have the East End councilors, Una Ziegler and Steve Saber, running completely unopposed, and there's no way to get them out, period, no way. Because if there was a primary, we could recruit people to run on stickers to get their name on the November ballot, and then they would have to spend money, knock on doors, and campaign. I don't know, actually do work, right? In the Central District, you have Joel Ferretra and Jim McCarty, no opposition this year. Nobody pulled papers to run against them. And now you're stuck with them. Why even have an election at that point? Right? I mean, at this point, why have an election? In the West End District, there is a candidate. Mike Downs is running. He's a hero veteran, and he's going to be on the show next week. He's going to be running against Mike Samad and Ali Safi. That's going to be a really tough race. Because he is an exceptional candidate. But Mike Samad is a hero police officer, and he's very well liked in this district. Ali Safi, by the way, is an exceptional counselor. So much so, in fact, in my opinion, she's one of those few counselors that she doesn't get involved in the back and forth, the sniping, the calling people out from the table, embarrassing people during public meetings. She never gets involved. We don't agree on a lot of stuff. Like, we didn't agree on the Solomon thing. We didn't agree on a lot of those things. But I at least admire the fact that she wasn't throwing bombs at people like certain other people were. Like, I don't want to mention Mike Samad, but there were certain other people that were dropping bombs at city council meetings and publicly humiliating people. And she didn't engage in any of that. And so I really like Ali Safi, and it's going to be a tough race. In the at-large race, we have 3 incumbents running for re-election. Jessica Finicaro, please vote for her. Dave Beauregard and Nick DiZoglio, all 3 incumbents running for re-election. There's 3 seats open. And we have one challenger, and you guys are going to love this because she was our best guest of 2 years ago. What is this, 2021? She was our best guest of 2019. And when I say, if you guys remember her being on the show, you'll remember that was the best show ever. Joyce Campagnon is going to run in the at-large race. And so we're going to try and have her in here in the next couple of weeks, too. All right, what else? Did we get to everything? Oh, ads for the August edition. We're putting the August edition of the Valley Patriot together right now this week. We will be out on Tuesday. This is the time to advertise in the paper because it's election time, local election time. Our readership doubles at election time. More people are paying attention to the elections. More people are reading our paper. More people to see your ad. We're running a special right now. We're calling it a 2-for-1 upsize. If you buy a half-page ad, we'll give you a full-page ad for the price of the half-page ad. Or if you'd rather have 2 half-page ads on 2 different pages, we'll do that too for the repetition so people keep saying your name when they're flipping through the paper. So please get in touch with us if you're interested. If you're a candidate, if you're a business, this is the time to get in. And what else do we have? Okay, so I think we're good. Please, if you guys, anybody out there is watching Kendris Vasquez, please come on the feed and let us know exactly what he's saying so we can report it live. To my left, to your right, is our good friend David Consoli, who I learned I've been calling him Dave, and apparently his mom does not like him. Does not like Dave. She likes David.
My birth name.
And so listen, I'm
not my mom. It's me.
Is it really?
It's all
You're
of
just
us.
blaming your
It's
mom.
all of us.
I never want to
blame his mother.
I never want to blame. I never want to get anybody's mom mad at me, right? So David Consoli from Pleasant Valley Landscaping, who advertises with us, even though he doesn't need the business, he came on board when a certain city councilor in Methuen called for a boycott of the Valley Patriot. Actually, he called for a boycott of Methuen businesses advertising in the Valley Patriot. Which, as a city councilor, I still don't get that at all, because it's not hurting us; it's hurting Methuen businesses when you're supposed to represent them on the council. By the way, that individual has since apologized and have accepted his apology, which is why I didn't mention his name.
Oh, that's great.
Had he not apologized, I would have told all you guys through the entire election who that guy is. But he did apologize, and I believe it was sincere.
Didn't we talk about apologies last time I was here?
We did.
They go a long way.
Listen, I'm a big fan of apologies. When someone humbles himself enough to apologize, then I think it's sincere. I think we should always accept their apology.
You should apologize to me, because that was predicated me to writing a check.
Right. Yeah, he's into me for a couple of grand now, thanks to that guy. So, where was I going with this? So that's how we got Dave. And Dave called and said, "Listen, I don't like what the councilors are doing to you. They're kind of pickpiling on you. I want to advertise and I want to show my support." And so anytime an advertiser wants to come on the show for any reason, we've had AFC Urgent Care, Lisa Williams has been here, whom we love. We're going to have her back very shortly. We've had a number of other advertisers come on the show. So David said, Tom, we need to have lunch because I'm really fired up.
And it's raining today.
Because of something that you did. And I said, okay, if you want to come on because of something I did, I haven't had my ass kicked on this show for a long time. So if I did something bad, then you need to come on the show and you need to kick my ass because that'll make the ratings go up.
No.
Half the people who watch this show actually hate me. So you think they'll love me that they watch. They don't. Half the people who watch this show hate me, so they're going to love it if you're calling me out.
No, the topic is you did something that you got no feedback on. So you offered. Right. So the name of this podcast should be Help Wanted, this one, because you offered local businesses to advertise, whether it's here or on the Valley Patriot, you offered them to advertise at cost for Help Wanted, because we all know that everybody's looking for help.
Yeah, it was like $25.
Okay, so how many people actually responded?
2, and one of them was my sister who just did it to help.
And do you know the reason why?
I've been scratching. I've been scratching my head since it happened.
Because we all, as business owners, can't get anybody even to show up for a job interview. And I'm not talking about myself, because I'm pretty blessed. We have some great employees. We have been fully staffed for the last 3-4 years. We recently lost the key player, but we're still okay. But everyone in my industry cannot get help. They can't even get people to show up for a job interview. And I wanted to share a story with you regarding one of our industrial customers in the area. They had a massive tree fall down during that storm a few weeks back. And they called us up and said, listen, the loading docks are blocked. And we have a delivery coming. And as you know, nobody can get trucking. Nobody can get truck drivers. And they really needed this delivery. So we dispatched 5 people out there at 6 o'clock in the morning because the delivery was coming at 7. And I said the facilities manager came out and thanked us for showing up. And I said, we're blocking everything with all the vehicles and stuff. I said, what time do the employees show up? And he said, you're looking at it. And I said, huh? And he's like, yeah, we laid off 68 people.
Wow.
When COVID hit in March. We recalled them all, and 1 came back. Wow. And he knows for a fact that most of them are waiting till that extra $300 a week expires. Yeah. What makes the situation even worse is he went on to say, and I can't believe this, he went on to say that he gets over 200 applicants a week and not one person shows up for a job interview, which that's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, it is.
because people are playing the system. What they're doing is they're filling out their unemployment. What do they call that? The census.
Yeah.
And saying that I looked for work.
I looked for work.
And I've also had other clients.
There should be a little line that says, "Did you show up for the interview?"
I've also had other clients who have corresponded with unemployment and said, "Yeah, I offered the person the job. They declined." Mm-hmm. And it's really, really a shame what's going on because the government is not listening to small businesses. We're all getting crushed. We're still making money, but our margins are shrinking because everything is going up. You can't get product. I don't care what business you're in. A lot of times we're waiting for deliveries. Oh, we have a trucking problem. We can't get plants. We can't get turf. Turf has been delayed. The price of fuel has gone through the roof. Everybody wants to yell, it's Joe Biden. Well, it's not Joe Biden.
Come on. It's got to be Joe Biden.
We have a problem with trucking in this company. The average age of a truck driver in this country is 55 years old. Most of them are fed up and they're retiring. Because have you driven on the roads lately? Have you driven a big vehicle on the roads? It's not fun.
No.
Everyone's cutting you off. Everyone's driving like a maniac. The traffic is ridiculous. And with any business, I don't care what business you're in, everybody is so short-handed that if you have good employees, we're overloading them because we can't service our clients and we're overloading the good people. And if you're a truck driver or whatever business you're in and you're getting to that age and you say, I'm done, there's a severe, severe shortage. You can go anywhere and ask them about trucking. There's a severe, severe shortage of truck drivers in this country. And what's going on in this country is an absolute disgrace because we came off the greatest generation in World War II. We had the baby boomers, that's my parents, and then there's us. And everyone, the feedback I'm getting from everybody is they're saying, oh, this generation of young kids, the millennials or whatever, they're lazy, they don't want to work, they're spoiled, they're entitled. Well, whose fault is that? It's our fault. It's our generation, because every generation wants their children to have it better than them. However, we went through a period of time where everyone had to get a trophy. I remember, when my son was third grade or whatever it was, he was very, very young. They had the soccer team came in last, but they got a trophy.
Right.
And I said to my wife, that doesn't seem right. No. But that's the environment that all of this generation grew up in. They all feel like, I got it coming to me.
Entitled, and I've had to let people go because from that generation because just entitled SOBs.
And it's not all of them. I don't want to paint everyone with a broad brush.
There's always an exception, but for the most part, you're right. They're entitled little snots. That's what they are. They think that they don't need to do the work, and you should still pay them. They don't need to go out and put the effort in, but you should still pay them. And it's infuriating. Like when I get a young person who starts objecting to something that's like not even really objectionable because they're all offended. It's because they think that they're all special little snowflakes.
Yeah, that's
deal with them so delicately.
But that's one aspect. But the other aspect is they don't have the worth ethic. Because I remember, and my wife is like this too, when we were teenagers, you got a job.
What age were you when you got your first job?
14.
I was 14 too.
Yeah, 14.
I washed dishes at Jilly's restaurant under the table for 2 years.
I've always had a job. Yeah. And my parents did a great job with their kids. My parents, they worked in the textile mills in Lawrence. And nothing was handed to us. You wanted something, you worked. My father bought me a bicycle when I was a kid. My parents, I shouldn't say my dad, but my parents bought me a bicycle. It was this green Schwinn bicycle, and I didn't like it, and I didn't take care of it, and I let it sit out in the rain and this and that, and I wanted a new bicycle. I guess back in the 70s, the Huffy was the thing.
Right.
And I really wanted this bicycle, and my parents said, no, you want a bicycle, you pay for it. So I got a paper route for the Eagle Tribune, and I went up on all the third floor tenements on High Street and Prospect Hill, and I delivered newspapers for a whole summer, and I saved my money for that bicycle. And I got to tell you, when I went to Zayre's and bought this bicycle, I'm dating myself, right. Zayre's and bought this bicycle, I was always polishing it, and I kept it nice and neat. It's the same thing
because you paid for it.
Correct. Right. And it's the same thing when my parents told me, you're having I was a civil engineer major at Merrimack, and I wasn't doing well. And I was having a great old time. My parents said, you're paying your own tuition. And that's when, I really started hitting the books. So having things handed to them is doing your kids a disservice. There's so many people on public assistance right now, and the government is not listening to small business owners. They're crushing us because no one can get help. I don't care if you're a landscaper, an HVAC guy, appliance repair, what have you. I deal, one of my vendors from my home, the air conditioning people, they've been servicing my home since I built it 15 years ago. And I would always call and say, I'd like to get on the schedule for furnace maintenance or what have you. And I called them in April before I started my season. And they told me the first opening we have is July 19th. I said, huh? And they're like, yeah, we just don't have service techs. And it's really, really a shame because people always told their kids, go to college. You want to get a job sitting in an office.
Right.
And I'm guilty of this as well. My oldest son, Michael, he's on the dean's list at Merrimack. And the kid is an amazing kid. And it's not because he's my son. He is so easygoing. He gives us no trouble. He's extremely intelligent. Do you know what he wants to do for a living? He wants to take over Pleasant Valley Landscaping.
Good for him.
He's out there right now in the rain, probably doing something.
Good for him.
And I discouraged it because I wanted him to have an easier path than I did. I remember when he was a baby and my wife was stay-at-home mom with 2 young kids, and I'd be out there in the rain, in the wind, freezing, under horrible conditions, and go, I'm doing this so my kids don't have to do this. But
and now your kid wants to do it.
But there's something, there is some satisfaction. If you're a carpenter or an electrician or what have you, and you go on a job site and you smell that sawdust and you create something with your hands and you come home and you're tired, it's like me. I'll come home sometimes. I like to go on job sites with them every so often. Lately it's more often than I'd like. But when you come home all muddy and you go to a house that's a mess and you tear the whole place down and you cut everything down, you rip everything up and you create this nice welcoming space for the client, and you've actually worked with your hands and created something. There's nothing to be ashamed.
Yeah, there's a sense of pride.
There's a sense of pride, and there's a lot of kids that don't have that sense of pride because they're sitting home on their computer. And I'm not begrudging IT people because they provide a valuable service. But this country was not built on technology only. We need people to pave the roads.
Right.
My very good friend Howard Cooper, who owns Cooper Paving Company, he can't get drivers. Another one. He could be cranking out, twice as much work if he had drivers. So it's something that it's a huge challenge, and I think we need more vocational schools. I agree. My younger son Joseph is going into his senior year at the Voc, and at Greater Lawrence Tech, I should say. And he wants to be an electrician, and he's hooked up with a great company he's working right now. They love him because the kid his work ethic is amazing, and he really likes creating stuff. One of his assignments was Hanscom Air Force Base, and he was putting in all the data lines. He learned something new that day. He came home. He was like, "Dad, I learned this thing. I have no clue."
Right.
But that's what he likes. He hates landscaping like poison.
Right.
But it's really good for the kids. I'm not saying it's good for everyone, but parents need to stop pushing their kids away from the trades because you could get out of trade school with no debt. And that's something we haven't touched on either because a lot of these
kids... And a $150,000 job.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Warren, was on TV the other day. She frustrates the heck out of me. She's telling people, we need to forgive $50,000 in debt. Why? What about the parents that paid?
Oh, you're talking about student debt.
Student debt.
Yeah.
What about the parents that paid for their kids to go through college? No one told these kids to take on all this debt. If you went to school and took on $100,000 worth of debt to get a music degree, well, that's your problem.
Right.
You made a bad decision. And every bad decision I've ever made in my life...
You pay for it.
You pay for it.
Right.
But you learn from it. Hopefully you learn from it. But the vocational kids will get out of school. And in many cases, plumbers, they'll train you to get your apprentice license. They'll train you. They'll pay for your education. And you start a job making, $40 an hour, $50 an hour, and you have no debt.
Right.
And with, I look at Matt McLennan comes on the show and talks about the price of real estate. I got news for you people. There's no crash coming. The feedback I'm getting is all this money that's coming into Methuen and Lawrence, Salem, New Hampshire, Andover to some extent. It's all coming from Melrose, Malden, Medford, Lexington. Everyone's moving out of the city and they're going further north.
Right.
Because it's cheap. What you may perceive, buying a ranch in Methuen for $550,000 may seem like a lot of money because it was like $350 3 years ago. But from a person that's coming from Malden, that's a deal.
Right.
Because they're selling their house for $1 million.
Right.
So the cities are all losing people because now people can work remotely. So the price of real estate isn't going down. So why am I bringing up this point? Because a child who graduates from Whittier Tech or a child that graduates from Greater Lawrence Vocational School and is making $1,000 a week or $1,500 a week with no debt is going to be able to save with his spouse as well, is going to be able to save money to buy a house versus the kid that graduates from Boston College and is making $125 a year but is straddled with $300,000 in debt.
Right.
There's an easier path to home ownership.
Yep.
So it's extremely frustrating to see what is going on the national level. They are not listening to us. There's a formula for people who are on unemployment that the government will assist you if there's a threshold. And if you have like a family of 4 and you don't meet that threshold and your unemployment doesn't cover that threshold, you can apply for welfare. And you can get some housing and food stamps, and that's a great intention. However, they don't count the extra $600 a week or the extra $300 a week that you're getting from the federal government.
Oh,
It's not in the equation, and you'd say, that's not sensical. Why would you do that?
They want to boost the numbers, right?
They want to boost the numbers because if the numbers don't stay high, then you lose your federal funding. And to me, that's morally
right.
Corrupt. Why are you doing that? The Department of Transitional Assistance it used to be the welfare department. It's Department of Transitional Assistance is supposed to help people transition. You're supposed to give them, it's in their title.
Right.
Assistance to transition, and they're not doing it.
Right.
People are on public assistance forever. I mean, I've talked about my home life. My wife goes to the market. She goes to Market Basket. But on the rare occasion she sends me, I feel like, why am I the only person in line paying for groceries when everyone else is whipping out an EBT card?
Right.
And if you're whipping out an EBT card, I don't want to see you loaded with tattoos and loaded with jewelry, and you have a nicer iPhone than I do.
Right.
Not
to mention that they're buying lobster and steak and potato chips and beer and.
But that's an educational thing. I mean, maybe they don't know what healthy food is. But what I'm saying is, if my parents came into this country, and we never did, but let's say we were on welfare, my mother used to make our own clothes. And if you got some type of assistance, you were poor. I mean, we used to take the bus when we lived in Lawrence. When we were younger, we used to take the bus everywhere. We didn't have a car. And then my mom and dad bought a car, but my father needed that car to go to work. And we used to take the bus. But now these people have nice cars. They got $1,100 iPhones, and they're paying for their groceries with EBT cards, and it's disgusting. And before people start sending the emails and say, you're out of touch, you're wealthy, you're this or that, I'm not great on corporate welfare either.
Me neither.
Like Jeff Bezos is thanking his customers and thanking his employees for sending him to space, which is disgusting. And the one time that I did agree with Elizabeth Warren is when she said, yeah, it'd be great if you paid taxes.
Right.
There should be a minimum tax. I don't mind paying taxes. I just want to be treated fairly.
Right. I agree with Elizabeth Warren on that, too. And I don't agree with her on much.
Yeah.
But when she says everyone should be paying taxes, she excludes the 50% of the people who pay no taxes at the bottom of that scale. I think even if you're unemployed, even if you're homeless, pay $1. Pay something into the system, because you're certainly getting stuff back, right? You're getting something, whether it's unemployment assistance, whether it's a tax break on your taxes for whatever. everyone should pay something, whether you're at the top of the scale. Seems like people at the top pay nothing. People at the bottom pay nothing.
And the middle gets crushed.
And the rest, and people like you and I who worked through COVID, who didn't get any special benefits, we're all getting squeezed.
Yeah, and shout out to my sister Linda today. It's her birthday. And
Hey, happy birthday, Linda.
So my sister Linda made a great point. She visited us over the weekend, and we were talking about a similar subject. But instead of giving people $300 a week, why don't you help them pay for their child care?
Right.
That seems to be, and my sister Linda brought this up, this seems to be one of the reasons why people say, hey, I'm home, I'd like to go back to work, but I have 2 children. And child care is a huge issue in this country. People can't afford child care. So instead of handing over a check that people will go out to eat or go on vacation, if you've ever driven up like Route 16 on the weekend, it's packed. Everyone's going on vacation. And you just gave people money with no strings attached.
Right.
So what about vouchers for childcare? You know how many people would go back to work if instead of the federal funding went directly to childcare, you put people back to work?
Right.
And putting people back to work isn't a bad thing. We really need to stop this. I mean, as much as I didn't like President Trump's behavior, I couldn't stand the guy. I'm a Republican, but I hated his behavior. Unemployment was really low.
Right.
And people were paying taxes, and everyone was working.
Right.
And now it seems we had this shift, and we're using COVID as a crutch. Okay, I understand a lot of people lost their jobs. Okay, my wife's company included. They recalled a lot of people. Some people came back, some people didn't. But again, the ones that are still there, they're getting killed because they're working. There's no such thing as an 8-hour workday anymore. These people are working a lot of hours because they're doing the work of 1 1/4, 1 1/2 people. And they need to stop using COVID as a crutch to get people back to work because, especially in the trades, we're in a lot of trouble. The average age of a welder in this country is 59 years old.
Wow.
If I need to get a truck fixed, you're looking at $120 an hour for a diesel mechanic. You can't find them.
Right.
To get a small engine mechanic, $100 an hour. And my customers, they want to know, why is this stuff so expensive? Who does it get passed on? Some of it gets passed on to the client, but some of it gets absorbed. I mean, my fuel bills are $800 more a week than they were last year at this time. That's $3,200 a month. Comes off the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned the economy was better under Trump, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Than it is under. Do you also agree? Could you just pull me up? I don't know why. Oh no, it's good. I just had to adjust it. So you said that the economy was better under Trump. Now we've got the Biden administration, who I think is screwing everything up, but it's not all completely their fault. But do you agree with me that the situations that you've all talked about today, all those situations that you've talked about, that none of it is by happenstance? This isn't just like the result of a bad pandemic that we had. That this is bad leadership and it's intentional. See, I think it's intentional.
It's Democrats. It's and I know my Democrat friends will be mad at me, but it's Democrats. Republicans sometimes take it too far on the other extreme, but it's the Democratic Party. They are so into this narrative now that woe is me.
Everyone's a victim.
Everyone's a victim. You're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in this country. You're entitled to nothing else.
Right.
Everything else.
Not free college.
You're not entitled to free health care. It's not a birthright. You're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Everything else you need to work for. And if you don't like the situation you're in, make it better.
Right.
If you're working for $15 an hour at Chick-fil-A, suck it up. Work there, get a better job, educate yourself.
But the reason why those jobs it used to be $7 an hour. Right now, they've bumped everything up to $15. But the reason those jobs are
for kids
paid so low is because you have no marketable skills. You get the job, you learn skills. You learn how to deal with coworkers you don't like. You learn how to have a boss that you don't like and still come into work every day.
Exactly.
You learn how to run a fryer later. You learn how to do a purchase order. You learn how business works. And then once you've got that skill, now you can maybe go to some other business and say, here's what I learned at my last job.
Correct.
And now you might be able to get a job that's better. But I think all of these Democrats and a lot of Republicans too, a lot of these politicians, they think that but the bottom rung, we should give them a living wage.
No.
They should be able to live on $15 an hour at Chick-fil-A. It's like, no, that's a starting salary for people who have no marketable skills, so that they can get marketable skills.
But right now, like Kafua Management, Dunkin' Donuts, they're offering like $17 an hour. I don't feel bad for those places because they've really taken advantage of workers over the years. All these Dunkin' Donuts franchises, they're paying them dirt. They've been paying them like $13
and they treat them like crap, too.
Yeah, they treat them like crap. They pay them like dirt. So what comes around goes around. I don't feel bad for some of those large companies. What I do feel bad for is all the mom and pop places. During COVID, I try not to go to Home Depot and Lowe's a lot. My employees break a lot of rakes. Recently, like I was looking for a hand pruner in some of the trucks. We always have like 4 pairs in every truck. I couldn't find them. They get lost. But I go out of my way to go to a local hardware store and buy that stuff. Those guys were dying because they were shut down when all the Walmarts and everybody else was allowed to stay open.
I'm surprised, and I want to give a free shout out. I'm surprised that Brian Hardware on Main Street in North Andover.
I love that
tiny little place, Brian. Right?
I bought a rake from him.
Did you really? He's a great guy, and he doesn't advertise, so it's not a shill for an advertiser. But he was closed during COVID, and all the big hardware stores, like you said, Home Depot, were open. They were making money. Bezos was making money. Walmart was making money selling rakes, selling doors, screen doors, everything else.
My kids make fun of me because I refuse to buy anything from Amazon. There's 2 things that I boycott. Okay, and this is for you, Joey and Michael. There's 2 things that I boycott: Amazon and Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
Wow.
Because of their social justice things. They provide defense funding for cop killers.
Right. God bless you, my friend.
Yeah, so that I can't stand. People paint law enforcement with a broad brush, but a lot of the police officers, they do God's work. I mean, try getting up and doing that job every day.
Right.
And I've discussed this with you in the past. The only problem I have with police officers is their details when they're on their phone and not paying attention to the traffic flow. Other than that, they do a great job.
Yeah.
But
imagine running toward bullets in a crowd.
No, I'd be scared to death.
I'm a coward. I'm running in the other direction.
No,
right.
I would be scared to death.
Yeah. And these guys are running in, and they also, like, I always try to.
But again, not to interrupt you, but again, going back to the Democrats, we had one guy that murdered George Floyd. That was unconscionable what he did. He got everything he deserved and more. But now we just painted the entire police force, and the media only reports all the bad things.
Right.
Look at this poor guy in Worcester, that Hispanic, I think he was in his mid-30s, police officer that jumped into a pond to save 2 kids, saved one of them, the other one died, they were 14, and the police officer lost his life.
Yep.
Where's his pension?
Right.
Drowning's not in a line of death pension.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So he's got a wife and 2 kids, no pension. He's not a hero.
That's outrageous.
It is. And the legislature will probably change the law, but it should have been in there in the first place.
Right.
But, he got about 1 or 2 days of airtime. That's it.
Yep.
We're still talking about Derek Chauvin. Everybody knows his name.
Yep. Well, it even goes back to like hands up, don't shoot, right? With the Michael Brown situation.
Oh, God.
The media jumped on it as if the cop was wrong no matter what before the facts even came out. And at the end of the day, even the Obama Justice Department did an autopsy on Michael Brown and said, no, the cop did the right thing. He had no choice. The guy was charging at him.
They ruined his life.
They ruined his life, but they also ruined his family's life, right? And they ruined all the other officers that work for that department. They're always now under suspicion when they go into any situation. They go into a domestic, they don't know if one of these people is still pissed off about that Michael Brown incident isn't going to clock him over the back of the head with a pan, right? Or a dumbbell or something.
But we've done to the police departments across the country what we're doing to the trades now, because now police recruitment is down. And we have a whole segment of the population right now that's not working, that is going to enter the workforce at some point. So they don't want to become police officers. They don't want to go into the trades. What's everybody going to do?
Right.
Can someone answer me this question?
We're going to go into a depression.
We're all going to work for tech companies. Is that what we're going to do? Yeah. We're all going to work from home, and
eventually we're all going to be working for Amazon, who's also going to own our housing, and we're going to be paying Amazon. Like in the old days, the company store, when the mills in Lawrence, they paid you mill money back in the 1920s, 1912. They paid people with mill money, and you could go to the mill store to buy your bread and buy your milk, but it wasn't good anywhere else.
Sounds like communism.
Well, that's what it is, and that's what they put, and that's where we're headed. That's where we're marching, and we're marching there very quickly.
People love their houses in this country. People love their cars. Who's going to put a roof on your house? Who's going to put tires on your car? the service industry, in restaurants too, right now is struggling as well. They have been throughout this whole thing. People like to do things. People work a lot. They like to go places. They like to do things. In order to do that stuff, you need a vehicle. You need vacation homes. You need hotels, what have you. And if you can't maintain all these things, we need people to maintain buildings, infrastructure. The roads and bridges and things of that nature. The T, one of the issues with the T is the unions. They can't get anything fixed because the unions fight them tooth and nail. But we'll talk about that next year.
Right.
But
I sent you a message, by the way, on Facebook, just so that you know.
But it's really, really discouraging to watch as a business owner. I mean, I've owned Pleasant Valley Landscaping for 33 years. I'm very discouraged. I never thought at this point when I was younger, in the future was bright. I really felt good going to work every day. Now it's like, man, what is tomorrow going to bring? Are we going to have help? Are we going to get hit? Part of my frustration this week was a conversation I had with my payroll service. Is I said, hey, what's these charges? And they said, oh yeah, your unemployment contributions went up. The rate went up. I guess we didn't calculate correctly. And you at home, you people don't understand this. This unemployment insurance is not free. The Massachusetts legislature raised the rates last year 55%, and they wanted to go up another 60%, and Governor Baker blocked it. For all you Republicans that hate Governor Baker because he's a moderate, thank God we have him. Right. Because it's just constantly taxed. And all these people that are on unemployment that don't need to be on, if you seriously need to be on unemployment, I get it. I totally get it. Right. But if you don't need to be on unemployment and you're just milking it for the extra $300, I hope you feel good about yourself because, I mean, we'll survive. I'm fine. No one's holding any bake sales for me. Right. But the small guy that has, one employee or two employees, whether he's in the landscape business or whether he's a plumber, his payroll taxes have gone through the roof. And his unemployment contributions have gone through the roof. Someone has to pay the bill. And the small businesses are paying the bill. I don't feel bad for people like Market Basket that have to, when they pay their payroll taxes and they've gone up because Market Basket doesn't pay their employees time and a half for Sundays anymore. Right. They pay time and a quarter. Because they're not making enough money. Right. I got to make a note. Have bake sale for Valley Patriot. Yeah. I didn't think of that one. No, I mean, I don't want to come off here like I'm coming on and crying, oh, poor me. No, because it's just me being frustrated because, my industry is one thing and we can't compete with a lot of our competitors. There's a lot of good landscape companies out there. I think in Methuen alone, there's got to be at least 24 landscape companies. Guess how many actually operate out of a commercial facility? 4. Wow. Okay? Many of them, I know for a fact, have illegals working for them. They don't have to contribute payroll taxes. Or unemployment, all these things, health insurance, what have you. So do you think this is going to create a huge underground economy? Of course. Yeah. People say to me, well, what's the number if I give you cash? What am I going to do with the cash? Right. We invoice you. It all gets run through the business. Right. But the guys that go out and do things and, whether they're a mason contractor, for instance, they'll repair your stairs and you can give them an envelope. I can't do that. Right. You got to show, the material, the payroll. If I said to the start charging cash. Sorry. If the IRS sees that you have X amount of dollars for payroll, let's say your payroll's $500,000 a year, and you only claim that you make, pick a number, $250,000, they're going to audit you. Right. It's you can't hide things like people did in the pizza business. The pizza business got flagged because they were always putting cash in the register and they weren't claiming it. Not ringing it in. They all got audited. So it's extremely frustrating to watch what has happened in the trades, and I feel bad for a lot of my colleagues that are really, really hurting. They don't have a lot of help, and I know a lot of guys in my industry that have maybe one employee, maybe two. A lot of them are working by themselves because they can't get help. Right. And many of them have transitioned out of maintenance. That's why we're booked for maintenance for the whole year because in the maintenance business, you can't push it down the line. Everybody has to get service that week. So, when it rained like the month of July, our margins, our profitability took a hit because we kept putting more personnel on mowing lawns. So our 2 crews that mow lawns, they couldn't get the service done. You can't tell the client you're not getting service this week, so you put more personnel. What happens to the construction aspect of the business? It falls behind.
Right.
So many landscapers have gone into hardscape and solely construction because they can book 12 jobs, and if they only get to 10 of them, oh well.
Right.
It just goes down the line because you can't get help. And I feel bad for a lot of them. A lot of them took PPP, the ones that had employees. I didn't want it until my peers, either called me, DM'd me, emailed me, and said, you're nuts. You got to take it. And I'm glad I did. I took the first round. I'm glad I did because we ended up keeping our employees home when COVID hit, and I paid them to be home. So it helped offset that, but I never ever anticipated the cost of everything going through the roof.
Yeah.
Especially in 2020, everything went through the roof, and we were locked in on contracts. Right. So it helped offset. But there was a lot of businesses that took PPP that didn't need it.
Right. I'm hoping that.
And the mentality of taking that PPP, the feedback I got was, well, they're screwing me anyways, so I'm going to take mine.
Right.
Okay, even though they didn't need it. Mm-hmm. So, there's like concrete companies took hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. The concrete industry was through the roof last year, and they didn't need it.
Right.
They didn't shut down.
Right.
So I'm just using them I don't want to single them out, but I'm using them as an example. But try to get a builder. Ask Ron Marsan what a sheet of plywood costs.
Right.
You can't get building materials. You can't get anything. There's a truck. I'll talk to my vendors and say, "Where's those trees that I ordered?" Oh, they're waiting for a truck, and then the truck comes, and 10% of that order on that truck was mine, and there's a $120 surcharge because there's a $1,200 surcharge on the load because they couldn't get drivers. They couldn't get trucking.
Right.
So trucking is a huge problem. I don't know how we're going to move forward on this, but we have a massive shortage of truck drivers, and that's probably 50% of the reason why fuel is so high right now.
So I guess what you're saying is that the reason why we didn't get more businesses to take advantage of our help wanted offer is that they're just so discouraged that it's not going to work.
Yeah, I have a friend who owns a lawn pest management company, and I think at last time we spoke, he was anywhere between $16,000 and $40,000 in recruitment costs. I don't know what avenues he's used, whether it's Indeed or whatever those services are, headhunters perhaps. Mm-hmm. I've been blessed. I haven't hired anyone in a couple years. We looked for one person a couple years ago. We just had someone leave us, and we filled that pretty quickly because we had a connection with someone. But I've been blessed. I haven't had to hire. So I've been hearing from all the people in the business that it's impossible. You can't get. I go on the Massachusetts Landscaper Association. You go on their Facebook page, and they'll all talk about what is going on. I have 3 or 4 people schedule an appointment with me for a job interview, and they don't even show. Mm-hmm. And the feedback they're getting from our peers are, yeah, that's pretty typical. Right. They're just trying to satisfy their unemployment request.
It's outrageous.
It's outrageous, and the unemployment department does not do their job. I had a guy several years ago. He was employed for me for 3 weeks. He came in. He seemed nice enough. He destroyed everything he touched. He damaged equipment, smashed the truck. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And finally, the guy that was working with him, he was supervising him, said, "There's something is not right here." And we drug tested him. And he failed the drug test. He was terminated. He filed an unemployment claim. We appealed. We lost.
Wow.
Okay?
So you can't fire someone for being on drugs at work. Wow.
We've had people quit. They open up an unemployment claim. You appeal. We've lost.
Wow.
It's absolute insanity that they just want everybody on some type of assistance. And it's extreme. I don't mind paying unemployment if we lay someone off. Sure. Because, we pay into it, they pay into it, what have you. And it's a way to keep our seasonal employees to come back because they do have that gap in the winter if it doesn't snow. So, but it's the people that take advantage of the system. It's extremely frustrating that, because we hold our organization, people make fun of me, but our organization, we hold people to a higher standard. When you come to work for us, you have to pass a criminal background check and you have to pass random drug testing. Okay? We put the safest people on your property as possible. I don't care about what race you are, what sex you are, but we don't want thugs working for us because our industry is loaded with people that are either illegals or they're criminals. When we show up to a job site, our fleet is really nice looking. Everyone is in uniform. They have a company hat. They have company shirts, a sweatshirt, what have you. They're in full-length pants and work boots. And our female clients feel safe around them because they're pretty professional. We have a Hispanic guy that we don't allow them to speak Spanish. You have to speak English. No one's allowed to speak any other language. Otherwise, I'd be swearing in Italian every day on a job site. You didn't get that joke.
Sorry.
But some of the other people in the industry, they show up and they have sneakers on, shorts, a do-rag, tattoos, no shirt on. They look like they just escaped from Walpole State Prison.
Right.
And it's not a joke. It's pretty disheartening because why can't we in our industry maintain the same level of professionalism that other industries do? Like for instance, if my dishwasher breaks or my washing machine breaks, I call the appliance repair guy. He comes in and he says, Mr. Consoli, it's $120 for the service call and this is the parts. I'm not going to turn around and say, well, I'll give you $80.
Right.
But that happens in the landscape industry.
Sure.
Because the perception is, these guys, they're not professional. They don't run it like a real business. They're driving around in a pickup truck that's all rusted out. And it's really, really frustrating when you go over 3 decades and you invest tens of millions of dollars in payroll, in equipment, in things that make the business efficient, and then you get penalized for it. Because people will say, you know what? You just charged me $600 to clean my yard. You were here an hour. Okay, well, what did my competitor charge? They charged me $600, but they were here for 4 hours or 5 hours. Well, that's not my problem.
Right.
We showed up with a ton of resources. The business model is different. But the perception is, oh, yeah, you're making too much money.
Right.
So I wish in that aspect, the landscape industry, I wish they would transition into a more professional, maybe perhaps regulated industry like plumbers, because there is no plumber, no electrician, no HVAC guy that's going to walk into your house and you're going to negotiate with them.
Right.
It's not happening.
Right.
And that happens in the landscape industry all the time. Now, I'm older and wiser and a little bit stubborn, but when I say, this is the price, it's going to be $1,800 to do this, thank you, have a nice day, and I walk away. And they'll say, well, $1,600. No.
Right.
This is what it is. And the people that I've mentored over the years, I've always told them, you're going to sit on your couch and make nothing before you go to work and lose money.
Right.
But getting more people into the trades, getting more professionalism into the trades, I think may help, because maybe that's my generation is told their kids don't go into the trades.
Yep.
And I think that might be a factor as well, because
you
look down on them, the working class, you're looking down on them.
Right.
And we make a pretty good living, doing what we do. I mean, I love being outside, and that's like my eldest son, Michael. And, the kid's a Dean's List student at Merrimack, as I indicated before. He loves being outside.
Right.
He's running equipment. He's doing this. He's doing that. And on the days where I say, I need you to sit with me in the office and let me show you a few things, he's like, he's learning, but he's like, this thing's, what do we pay for insurance? Oh, that's a ripoff, Dad, and stuff like that. But that's the mundane administrative end
Right.
of
But you're giving him those skills too. So if he starts another business somewhere else down the line, he's got those skills now.
Yeah, and he's learning. I mean, he's 19 years old. He's learning a lot of customer service skills, because people, in some of the upper class communities, they freak out on the employees.
Right.
There's no civility. People are condescending and demanding. And, I've put my son right in the frying pan and said, deal with it.
Right.
Because I've noticed, if I get a call to a job site and say this customer's out of control and I show up, the tone immediately changes, because the 54-year-old guy is here, not the 25-year-old kid that you think that you can take advantage of. But my son has done a great job recently diffusing a lot of that stuff and say, no, we're hired to do X, Y, and Z. You want that done? That's a change order. You got to call my dad. Right. Because they'll try to get you to do things. It's the while you're here mentality.
I know we're a little over. Chrissy has something she has to do after 3, right?
Oh, we got to go.
Speaking of working, I like working, and I do have more work that I'm going to go do. So.
I'm sorry, Chrissy.
You're fine, okay. David. You're always fine.
So
I just kind of...
The one thing that I've been wanting to say the whole show, and I've been thinking about this now since before COVID, actually. One of America's greatest heroes is Mike Rowe. You know who Mike Rowe is?
He's amazing.
Okay. And you watch his shows about dirty jobs, all the trade stuff that you talk about. He highlights trades, talks about how kids shouldn't be going to college right out of high school. They should get like real life experience first, and then if you want to go back, that's fine. And I see you as like the local Mike Rowe. I hear you.
Dirty job, dirty David.
Right? But everything that you're saying is true, and it needs to be said because a lot of people don't understand how true it is.
Yeah, parents need to understand there's a lot of satisfaction in going out there and working with your hands.
Yes.
Even though things are tough, sometimes the conditions are rough. But and I'm not saying it's for everyone. We need doctors. We need lawyers. We need engineers.
Newspaper publishers.
Yeah, we need, if I had to do it all again, I'd be a home builder. I love building houses.
Right. See, my
wife doesn't like it because I go overboard. But, I love architecture.
Right.
But everybody has a passion. And the passion has gone away from the construction industry. Right. The passion has gone away from that. And I'm not saying it has to be a lifetime job either. But kids could go to trade school, become a carpenter, be a carpenter until the age they're 45, and then move on to something else.
Sure.
Be a project manager.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Or maybe an architect. Go back to school, do that. But as long as you have a talent in the pipeline, and that's one thing I talk about my employee, the talent.
Right.
These guys are talented. They do a really great job. And without your employees, I don't care what organization you are. Without your employees, you're nothing.
Oh, no question. When I started the Valley Patriot, I used to do all the deliveries myself. But we were in 4 communities. Now we're in like 38 communities. I can't do all those deliveries, especially with my physical condition. So I have to hire drivers. And I have to rely on them to do a good job. And I have to rely on them to be professional and represent my business. And thank God, knock on wood, we've kept our drivers through COVID. We've kept our drivers through Columbia Gas. We kept our drivers through all of that. I think we might have changed one driver at some point. But almost all my people have been with me for more than 5 years. And they're great. I went, and I know we got to wrap up. I went to the Voc my first 2 years. I was in carpentry.
Great school.
And I loved it. I loved carpentry. But then I had to have 2 rods put in my back. I had scoliosis. And I'm looking at my future saying, do I want to be climbing ladders the rest of my life with 2 rods in my back? Do I want to be doing this?
Yeah, because you had a physical limitation.
Because even though like after the surgery I was okay and I could move, I could lift things a little bit. But I also knew that as I got older, that was not going to always be the case, that it was going to degenerate at some point. So I went into other stuff, right? I went into writing, I went into politics, I went into all these other things. But like we had lunch yesterday, and one of the things that I was thinking is, I wish that I was physically good enough to go out and do landscaping 1 day a week just for extra money, right? Because I would be one of your on-call guys. You get a guy that doesn't show up tomorrow, $40 an hour, I'll come in for the day, right? And that would be more than I'm making on the Valley Patriot for the week. So I wish that I was in a position that some of these young kids are today, that they're physically fit, they're physically capable of doing the job, but they're just too damn lazy to do it. I wish I was in that position because I would be jumping at the opportunity even for part-time work.
It's frowned upon. It's not, people look down on the trades a lot of times. And I never had, I'm a graduate of Central Catholic. I'm a product of Catholic schools my whole life. But walking into Greater Lawrence Technical School, I was in awe of that facility, and my son Joseph goes there, and I can't believe how many people in that staff want your child to succeed.
Right.
If he falls behind, they're there. The help, the support and the help is amazing. Not to mention, you can eat off the floors in the bathrooms. I'm a clean freak. So, but the school's immaculate. They do such a great job at the Greater Lawrence Vocational Tech. I really wish more people would, we'd build more of them, first of all. Build more trade schools, but more people would consider the trades. We desperately need We desperately need workers in all trades. I'm not saying
Right.
landscaping, but masonry, carpentry, and so forth and so on, electrical, plumbing, what have you. There's a lot of good opportunities out there, and they're not all union as well, because unions have pros and cons as well. So
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why when we do our charity bash every year in March, which, by the way, we had to cancel for the end of August, but we will have one in March. Two of the scholarships we give out, one is for the Voc, and one is for Whittier Tech.
Great school.
Because if you're getting a trade and you want to go into college to learn more about your trade, architecture, whatever it is, those are the kind of jobs that are always going to take care of you later on, and so we always try to do that. I wish that I was physically fit to do physical labor because I'd be making a shit ton of money right now.
we'll do it for you.
All right, okay. But if anybody has an admin job that I can do at home, I'll be happy. I'm a pretty good writer. I want to thank Chrissy here at Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Did I tell you he was all fired up today?
You did?
Right?
You
I
did.
said hello, and then he just launched, right?
Well, it's a rain day.
Right,
My
right.
employees are inside fixing
Listen,
everything that's broken, so
please-
I'd rather be here.
Please come back. I love the shows where I don't have to do any talking.
Not until the winter, okay?
Right. But I love the shows where I don't have to do any talking because people learn from my guests, from their specialized experience and what they've gone through.
And you also learn the rumors about me running for city council of false because I didn't pull papers.
Yes, yes.
People need to get a life.
Yeah.
Spreading that rumor.
Well, I don't want to say anything about Bill Bryant, but so we want to thank our advertisers. I'm sorry, Chrissy. McLennan Real Estate, AFC Urgent Care, Marsan and Son Construction. Give them a call. Give them a call because Dave's not taking construction jobs. David is not he's doing construction jobs. Sorry, Mom. EIS Gun Training and Investigation, who I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show. Borelli's Deli, where I'm going to get my tortellini salad right after this. Teddy Fairburn, Workers' Compensation Attorney. Tomo's Hibachi. We're going there Saturday for the hibachi. Who else? Clear Path for Veterans New England. And, of course, our good friend David Consoli at Pleasant Valley Landscaping. Thank you to Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. All of our listeners, all of our readers at the Valley Patriot. If you're looking to sponsor the show, $50 a week, please get in touch with us. We'll take care of you. If you want to advertise in the Valley Patriot, now's the time to do it. It's local elections. Our readership literally doubles at election time. Sounds like Melvin Taylor says we got to go home. Yep, that's what he said, so go home already.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
job, David.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.